Hey there. Right, just going to show you a short demonstration or shortish demonstration on how to make one of these handy storage boxes. They're really brilliant, very easy to make once you know how, and shouldn't take you too long. It's just knowing those little tricks to get it to this stage. So to make this size bag, this one measures 13 inches across, 9 inches down. Now that's allowing for seam allowances and the base. Okay, so 9 inches down this way and 13 inches across. And to do that, what you're going to do is you are going to cut out 2 pieces of pattern fabric in that measurement. 2 pieces of pattern fabric in that measurement. You're going to do exactly the same for the wadding as well. So the wadding, you can use any wadding you like. I use like a curtain interlining because it's nice and cheap, it's washable, it really quilts very well, and it's cheap as chips. Okay, so what you'll do is you'll lay your fabric onto your wadding. And what I like to do is I like to quilt because I like my boxes to have some stability there. Okay, without the stability, and if it's just the fabric and the lining, it just sort of becomes quite floppy, which is absolutely fine if that's what you want, but I like mine to be a little bit proud and stand on their own. So what I do is I lay my fabric on top of the wadding and then I quilt. Now for this particular one, I've used like a wavy quilting pattern there, which is like that. That's the back, as you can see, and that's on both both sides of this. Now on this one, I've used a walking foot because I've put accurate squares, which look like triangles like that. Now the walking foot, if you're not familiar with one, is this, and to get the accurate lines on it you would use the space bar on it. Okay, but anyway, this is the one I've done, which I find is really easy, really quick, and quite effective, especially if you've got a flowery pattern, because then you can make it look like trellis. So when you've quilted both these pieces of fabric, what you then do is you put your fabric right sides to right sides like so. Okay, then you're going to stitch along the side, along the bottom, and up the other side. Okay, so now this is your top. When you've done that, and I've put a line to show you where I've stitched, or where I'm going to stitch, okay, and then what you're going to do is you are going to measure the bottom corners. Now on this size box, I've used a 2.5 inch square on that corner and this corner. Then you're going to cut them out, and when you cut them out you will have 2 little pieces like this. This is one that I made earlier, so you cut that out, and then on this side you cut that out. And to make up that box shape like so, what you will do is you will place the side seam to the bottom seam and stitch across like that. Now there are other ways to do this, by just laying it down and having the point sticking out and stitching across. I find for me this is more accurate, but you can do it whichever way you find easiest. I particularly find this way easy. So you marry up the side seam with that bottom seam and stitch across, taking care that when you stitch across you do a forward reverse at the beginning and a forward and reverse at the bottom at the end, because what you don't want is to be putting stuff into your box and then finding it pops out little gaps in the corners. So always sort of forward reverse at each end on that bit there. Don't worry about the rest of it. Okay, so that is your outer part of the box sorted. Then you're going to do sort of the same with your lining. So you're going to place your lining together like so, cut out exactly the same measurements as the outer part of the bag. So this is exactly the same size as the outer. Okay, then what you're going to do is you're going to stitch all the way down one side along the bottom, come up, stop. Now the difference between the lining and the outer part of the bag is you are going to leave a gap. Can you see that? So I've come up to my stitching, stopped, and I go forward, reverse here. I leave a gap, start again here, forward and reverse here, and up to the top, so that you've got a gap. And you need that gap there to turn the bag the right way out when you've placed it all together. Now some people leave that gap at the bottom. If you want to leave a gap at the bottom, that's fine. It really doesn't matter so long as you leave that gap there. Also, what you're going to do when you've done that is you are going to mark out on the bottom of this lining exactly the same as you've done on the outer bag. 2.5 inches from this corner, 2.5 inches from this corner, and you will cut those out like so. Take those away, and I've got one here that I've already done, so it looks like that. And then you'll marry up that side seam with the bottom seam. You see that? So that you get that nice bottom. You'll do that on both sides. Can you see that? So that's your lining, and that's your outer bag. So basically you're making two bags exactly the same, but they will go together at the end. Now for the seam allowance, on all of mine I've used a 1/4 inch seam. You can do whatever seam you like, but if you do a different size seam, make sure that your seam allowance is the same on everything that you sew, because you don't want the inner bag, the lining, being bigger than the outer bag. Otherwise you've got all this excess material. So you really do need to keep your fabric, your seam, sorry, exactly the same. Okay, so we've sorted the outer one, we've cut the inner one, and we know that you're going to have, once you've sewn them together, you're going to have your lining bag and you're going to have your outer bag. Now when you've sewn your corners up for your outer bag, you'll turn your outer bag the right way out. That's stabbing yourself. I'm stabbing myself here on some pins that I've got at the top here, and the pins are there because I'm going to show you how to do the handles next. So you just push that through. Now a little tip here is, on the edge of some of your fabrics you get these little things saying the colours that they use in the fabrics and that. I like to cut these bits off and sometimes use them. So on this one, this was on the edge and I've top stitched it. You see that? Isn't that cute with a little mushroom? Because it's mushroom fabric as well. I've used that as a sort of label on it, as a sort of design feature. So there's the bag, can you see it? Okay, and the base. And the lining is the same shape, same size. Now for the handles, you're going to cut out some fabric, and that's going to be, if I just check my measurements here, 3 inches by 12. This is going to make 2 handles. Now wadding, I've cut out the wadding 2 inches by 12, and that will sit in the middle of the fabric for the handle like so. So when you've done that, you place it down the middle, just press it over the edges like so, okay, and then you press it in half. Can you see that? So you're encasing it, all right, and then you'll stitch all the way down the open side first, then the closed side, and then add another couple of rows if you want to. Now I've kept one of the handles back from this one to show you. So this is one of the handles already made, okay? You see the amount of stitching I've done on there. Now I've made one long handle there. When you've sewn that together, you fold it in half, find the middle, snip it, and then you'll have 2 handles. Now putting the handles on, you put it onto the outer bag. Now I've measured from the side seam here, I've measured 1 inch this way and 1 inch that way, okay? And then to place your handles, you place it like so, put a pin in it from the top, leave your pins a little bit proud at the top, that way when you come to sew your bag together, you can actually stitch over those handles if you want. Now take care that when you put this handle on, you're not twisting it like so. You want to make sure that it's going to sit on there and not be twisted. So pin it into there, pin it into there. So this is what your outer bag will look like waiting to be constructed. Okay, now once you've got to this stage and this stage, what you do is you leave your lining bag inside out. Okay, that one stays inside out. Your outer bag you are going to pop into your lining like so. Just tuck it all in, it'll all go, and then using a pin you marry up the side seam of the lining with the side seam of the outer fabric. Okay, just pop it in there, don't worry too much. Put a pin there. I like to pin from the top just to hold it there, then straighten it all up like so, and then you would pin all the way around like so, making sure your fabric at the top is level with each other like so, and you'll do that all the way around. Okay, so it's pinned together, so that's your outer part of your bag is tucked into the lining. Now I'm not going to pin that all the way around at the moment because I'm going to just show you how to sew it. So having about, I would say, a 1/2 inch seam along the top, you are now going to sew your lining to your outer bag. I'll just do that quickly to show you. Okay, it's a little bit tricky to do this because you've got to just sort of turn your fabric round and try not to get stabbed by pins. I'm always stabbing myself, but I always think that comes with the territory when we're sewing. Now you can take your pins out that you've got poking out the top there as you go if you want to. Okay, so sewing it all the way around like so. Nearly there. Right. I'm still using my walking foot on here because there's quite a few layers to get through, but if you haven't got a walking foot, don't worry about it. Okay, right, so that's it stitched all the way around the top. Now here comes the what I call the clever bit. So you find that little gap that you left, okay, and you are going to pull the whole bag through. It's quite robust, and that extra wadding in there, it really does make it quite strong. And then you're going to tuck it all the way in, push your corners in, don't treat it too gently. And then what you're going to do is you're going to make sure that your lining, left a pin in there, make sure your lining sort of marries up nicely along the top with the outer fabric. You don't want one being more proud than the other. It's all those little finishes really that give it a little bit more of a professional look. Okay, so you're going to push it all the way around there, okay, like so. Okay, I could speed through this on the demonstration, but I always sort of feel that if you speed through it, when you're watching something, you might miss something, so I won't do that. Plus I'm not very technical, so to be really honest, I don't know that I would know how to do that. So there you go. So there's your bag, the right way out. Okay, pushed it all in, stitching around the top. I'll just do that quickly. Now I usually use about a 1/2 inch seam around the top for this, because I like to make sure the handles are really secure. So if I just stitch that down like so. Nearly there. Get to where you started your stitching. Just go over it nicely there and done. Take the pins out. Okay. And hey presto, there's your bag. The only thing to do now is just to hand stitch that little gap that we left to pull it through. And there is your little storage box. Okay, now I've typed out the measurements for you. I don't know if you want to screenshot these. This is for this size bag. Okay, so that gives you for the main fabric, the wadding, the lining, the handles, sort of about quilting it. Okay, I've even put the distance from the seam for your handles. Okay, you don't have to put handles in, but I actually find it's quite nice. So if you put your cables in it or your makeup in it, the handles are quite handy for sort of carrying it around. I think they look nice as well. So there's those. Okay. Well, I hope that's made it a bit easier. It's not the only way to make these, but I find it, for me, that's the easiest way to make it. And actually, because I make quite a few of them, I can sort of knock one of these out in half an hour. So don't get hung up over seams being exact or cutting out not being exact. Just work through it, make it work for you. Okay, thank you for watching.